heck is up, everyone? We're back with yet another episode of Sunday Riff Refinery. We're on episode 16 now, but it's actually kind of a continuation of Sunday Riff Refinery episode 11, and that's linked up above and down in the description below if you want to go check it out first, because today we added some vocals to it, and I actually changed around the guitars quite a bit and re-recorded the guitars and changed the drums and redid the bass, so it's almost completely new now, and that's just kind of the way my brain works sometimes. And back when I wrote that during that episode, I did say I was going to put vocals on it eventually. I just didn't think it would be like a month and a half afterwards. But here we are, right? And it's because, I got a new microphone, I got a new mic stand, got all this new stuff, got inspired, and I put out last week's Sunday Riff Refinery, which had some pop punk style vocals. So I figured I need to try and do some grunge slash shoegaze slash emo style vocals. And yeah, I did it. And what we did was we changed around the intro. So the intro guitars are now a little bit more chill. So it started out like this. And so what I changed that to was this. So it's a little bit more, new grunge-ish. It reminds me of a lot of those bands like Shinedown and Seether again, because they would always have that like clean-ish part of the song, right? But it usually had more effects to it. So what I did was add the little plate from Sound Toys and then the Echo Boy Jr. from Sound Toys. And these are the settings that we've got on there. Very, very basic settings with the mix set relatively high on the little plate and relatively low on the Echo Boy. And so you can already hear it gives it that ambience that it just didn't have before. And I didn't like how plugins were doing that. And now just to be clear, I'm actually running almost all pedals and amps for this guitar tone except for the little plate and the Echo Boy Jr. Those are obviously plugins. And so I'm running the PV Invective clean channel. And into that, for this clean-ish tone, I actually have the Amity from Fuzz Imp, which is a dual overdrive, and I'm using it as kind of like a distortion pedal right now. So yes, it's overdriving the amp a little bit, but it's also got a distortion characteristic that's all its own, and I just thought it sounded really cool here. So that just sounds really pleasing to my ears. It's a really, really cool tone to play through, and that's what we ended up with for the intro here. So for the rhythm guitars, I actually quad-tracked everything this time. It just sounded thick. It sounded like a full wall of sound kind of sound that I was going for. So the first stereo pair that I recorded is actually going to be using the Era's distortion pedal from Walrus Audio, and this is what that sounds like. And again, this is with the guitar's humbucker coil split, so... So that's what we're working with there. Now let's go ahead and turn off the Eras, and let's go ahead and turn on the next pedal for the next stereo pair, which was the Fuzz Imp Machina 2. So the Machina 2 is, as it sounds like, it's a fuzz pedal, and it sounds really good. It's very thick, and I wanted that to be the main tone that I had here, so I actually blended in the Era's distortion just underneath it, but this is what the Fuzz Imp sounds like. So as you can hear, very thick and very, very distorted with that fuzz tone there. And that's actually why I brought in the Eras underneath it, was because I just wanted a little bit of that chord definition and separation to be coming through still. And that's why I just cranked the Fuzz Imp pedal and just let it obliterate the signal to give me that wall of sound that I was looking for. And I brought in the Eras underneath just to get that clarity back as well. Really, really cool way to pair things. I probably could have tamed the fuzz pedal a little bit and just quad tracked that. I just wanted to use another pedal because, I can. So why not? Now on those guitars, I do have the STL ControlHub going as well, and this is a pop punk guitar crunch preset from Aaron Sprinkle that I've gone ahead and kind of tailored to my guitar tone itself. So here's the fuzz guitar tone without that. And here it is with it again. Now what I want to do is I want to let you guys hear the guitars all panned correctly with and without that as well. So I'm going to let you hear just the rhythm guitars right now. So here's what they sound like before the STL Tones ControlHub. And then with it, I'm going to toggle it on and off while this is going so you can hear the difference. So you can hear it's taming the low end a little bit. It's saturating the high end a little bit from what it sounds like to me. I don't know exactly what else it's doing inside of there, but I do have the high and low pass filters going, and I am giving it a little bit of a bump down at the, 222 hertz area, which usually I would be taming, but since I'm not palm muting in this song, it was okay to bump it there and really girth up that track. So sounds really, really good to my ears like that at least. Now there is a lead guitar track happening, and it's very hard to hear because it's layered underneath it, but this is what it sounds like. So that's got just a tiniest bit of reverb, and then I'm using the FabFilter Pro C2 and I'm compressing that a little bit just to make sure it tames it. And then there is a little bit of EQ happening as well because it did have some harsh frequencies, so I just dipped that stuff out and did a high and low pass filter. It's fairly aggressive on the high pass there just to, you know, cut out the low end of it. It doesn't need it, it's a lead channel. So, but that was it for the lead guitar. Now let's go on to the bass guitar. So on the bass, I have quite a bit going on. So we do have the STL AmpHub. I do have their compressor going with pretty ridiculous settings, so I'm kind of slamming that a little bit. I do have the Obsidious, the Modern 3001 again. We're using the Ampere. I always use this. I've messed with the cabinet section a little bit this time though. I did put a third-party impulse response inside of here, and it's sounding pretty good. This is one of the ones that Nolly uses, and I've been using it for a long time. Decided, why not? Let's try it on this, right? And then over in the effects section, I have actually turned off the EQ this time. And that is because I'm using Pro Q4 and I'm doing a ton of work to it. So this is what it sounds like before Pro Q4. And this is with it. And I know that might sound kind of dull, but in the mix, it sounded better to me that way. So I'm going to go ahead and A and B that for you. So you can hear I was able to get out some of that string noise. My jazz bass is not set up very well, so it does have some fret buzz that I need to address, and that's just for future Ryan. I'm not going to do it right now. Next we have double tap, and that's from Submission Audio. That is compressing the bass because it's just great at that and it's very simple to use. And then lastly, I do have the kilohertz limiter, just so that way we can kind of lock that bass in place and keep it going. And you see vocals down there. We're getting to the vocals. Well, I want to get to the drums real quick. So the drums I've got fairly simple on here. So we do have the Robot Dog Drums Rock. This is still one of my favorite kits to use, especially for this style of music. This snare, it sounds ridiculous, but it sounds so good. And the kick as well. It just fit this mix for me. Now, what we have going on as far as effects go is very subtle on here because, you know, the plugin does a lot of its own processing anyways. I just wanted a little bit more. So again, using one of Aaron Sprinkle's presets inside of the STL Tones ControlHub. And so this is what it sounds like. I'm going to A and B it while we're listening to it. So as you can hear, it's bringing out the snare transient a little bit more, giving it a little bit more smack. And this is just a drum bus preset on there. It's not doing anything to any individual piece of the kit. And I feel like it brought out the cymbals a little bit more as well. I just liked what it did, and so I left it on there. I adjusted to taste for the plugin that I'm using, and I touched a little bit of stuff over here, but I left it relatively at the settings that he was already using inside of this preset. All right, now let's get to my vocals. So the vocals, as we all know, I'm not great at. So for the verse, we just have vocal doubles, and I did use Vocal Line to kind of line those up because I'm not great at recording vocals. And then for the chorus, we have the same two like main vocal doubles, and then I did do harmonies as well. So let's go ahead and hear what the vocals sound like. We'll let you hear a little bit of this one, and then we'll hear a little bit of the chorus as well because I want you to hear the main playthrough. I don't want to spoil it all. So I am using Nuro Audio again. This is a really cool vocal like plugin chain all built into the one. It's a vocal channel strip style plugin. So we have a compressor going, we have a de-esser going, we have a little bit of shaping EQ going as well. And by a little bit, I mean a lot. I'm adding a lot of air to that. And then I did use the reverb and delay and have that being ducked when the vocals are actually happening. So that way it's not so much of it building up. And then I have a phaser going. Now, next up, we do have another one of their plugins. It's their modulation plugin. And then lastly, I do have their saturation going in that same sound effects plugin. So I have 3 of their plugins running all at once, and it's just doing what I want it to do, honestly. So here's what it sounds like without any of those plugins. Very plain, right? Here is just the XVox Pro, and this is what it sounds like with that on. So honestly, it would sound pretty good with just that. And if we then bring in the sound effects, so this is with the modulation now. The reason I added that plugin is I was thinking of the old school like Deftones and Chevelle and bands like that where they have those really heavily affected vocals in certain songs. And I just wanted that, one, to hide my crappy vocals. So that's one, if we're being real, I'm trying to hide some crappy vocals there. Two, I just like that sound. I think it fits the genre very well. And then lastly, we do have the saturation happening as well. So let's listen to it without it and I'll turn it on. So it just makes it a little bit warmer, gets it a little bit more drive to it, which on its own doesn't sound great, but in the mix, I thought it sounded great. So speaking of the mix, in the mix, what we have going on is we do have the Townhouse bus compressor, and then we do have the JST maximizer. These are two plugins that I use a ton. That's it. This is all running. So let's just take a listen to the final mix, right? If you guys like this kind of songwriting format, let me know. The next one, I'm going to be writing a full song from scratch again. I know this one was a revisit, but it was a revisit where I changed everything. But yeah, let's listen to the final mix, shall we? Someday I'll give you something that'll make you smile, and I'll take Well, and just like that, Sunday Riff Refinery number 16 is in the books. We sang again, chat. We sang again. And I'm getting a little bit more confident with my singing. I do need to get better at writing vocals. I need to get better at performing the vocals and make sure I don't have to use as much a vocal line and things like that. I need to learn how to tune vocals. I want to learn how to use autotune and things like that. Maybe not the specific branded autotune, but yeah. So I wrote this song again in the vein of bands like Super Heaven and Chevelle and Seether and Shinedown and those alt-rock bands from the 2000s. It's just what is really vibing with me at the moment, and I'm hoping my vocals came across in that manner. I've had some people tell me that this is starting to sound like shoegaze. I don't know anything about shoegaze, so if you do, let me know if it's actually going in that direction or not, and let me know some bands that I should check out so that I can, you know, try and copy it a little bit better than I am unintentionally copying at the moment. But yeah, that's it for me today. If you all have any questions, comments, or otherwise, please leave them down in the comments. Like, subscribe, do that whole shebang. You know how it goes. It helps me out immensely. There are links for everything that I've used today down in the description below as well. I appreciate it immensely if you use those links. It helps me out tons. But yeah, until next time, peace and love, and I will talk to you in the next one.